Well, good morning, everyone. There's an old Chinese curse that says, "May you live in interesting times." Evidently it works, because we do. I just want to acknowledge that this is a place in our history when we feel a lot of different things. And it's very easy to take sides and get into an us and them mindset. So what's important is that we pay attention to what we're feeling, own them as our own feelings, and that's our work. To be true to ourselves. When we're true to ourselves, it's much easier to be honest with others. And when we're honest with others, it's much easier to open our hearts and to allow, and ultimately to love. But we start with ourselves. Being true to ourselves, loving ourselves right where we are in each moment. So here we are. I've talked to people this past week who feel crushed, saddened, angry. Talk to people that feel elated, happy, hopeful. Talk to people that don't know what they feel, or they're feeling nothing in particular, they say. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that, but that's their experience. It's okay. So what's important, we just be here with ourselves and with one another. And the words of the Dharma that are applying to me right now are, and this too, and this experience as well, and this too. So that's what I'd like to do this morning, is just talk about how we can apply the Dharma practice to right where we are in this moment, this point in time. I've developed a little, I'm not sure what to call it, but something I want to put on a badge or a bumper sticker someday, WWBS. What would the Buddha say? But that's not a high priority for me right now. But what would the Buddha say? What does the Dharma teach? Well, first and foremost, the Dharma teaches us that external conditions are not nearly as important as our response to them. So what determines the quality of our life, what determines our future quality of our life, is how we respond to the conditions we're given. The conditions that we're given are based on the past. They have their genesis in the past. Everything we see in this moment, everything we experience in this moment, is the result of something that happened in the past. You know, this building, Temple Buddhist Center, the Dharma, didn't just pop up in this moment. It had its origin long, long ago. All of it has. And so the origin of our future, for good or for ill, is in this moment right here. So we take the conditions that we have. You know, like the poker player says, you play the cards you got. And you do the best you can with them. So we bring the practice of the Dharma to the here and now. The here and now not being some description of what the world is like, but the here and now meaning our own personal experience in the here and in the now. There's a story. I'm feeling touched by it just thinking about the story of one of my teachers telling me about a time several decades ago when the Chinese were invading and devastating Tibet. And at that time, the Dalai Lama had escaped into India, northern part of India. And he was addressing a group of people, as he typically did most days. And in the midst of his talk, one of his attendants came up to him and whispered something in his ear. And the Dalai Lama immediately began to weep and sob. He put his face in his hands, and his whole body just almost convulsed in tears. And this went on for several minutes. And finally, he looked up, and he wiped his tears dry, and he said, "I just learned that the Chinese have destroyed 20 of our monasteries, murdered all of the monks, raped and murdered all of the nuns. And now, let us pray for the Chinese." Now, not many of us could do that, and we don't want to set ourselves up for trying to be like someone else, even the Dalai Lama. But I tell that story to illustrate what's possible. And the Dalai Lama did that not to try to teach anything in particular, but that's who he was. He was being totally himself, totally true to himself in that moment. And that's when we are most effective in teaching others, which he did and still does to this day. So I'd like to talk about how we can use the Dharma practice in this interesting moment, interesting time that we have. And the first thing I'd like to mention is to simply be present in the moment. Something you may have heard before. Be here now. 3 little words that can require a lifetime of practice. Be right here, right now. So much of the time when I work with people one-on-one, I'll hear about issues and problems and things going on in their life, and every once in a while I'll say, let's stop for just a moment, take a deep breath, and tell me in this moment, right now, what's the problem? Well, right now there's no problem. But yesterday, you know, and then tomorrow, okay, but what's the problem right now in this moment? Well, there is none right now. But you know, so, I'm not saying we don't have problems, but the question is, what's the problem in this moment? We find that most of the time we don't have problems in this moment. Kind of like Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, once wrote, he says, "I'm an old man and I've known many troubles. Fortunately, most of them never happen." You see, and for most of us, our troubles usually don't happen. In this moment, what's the problem? Well, if there is a problem in this moment, what do I need to do to address it? Do it. There's no problem in this moment. Then what's here in this moment? Whatever. Be with it. Explore it. Be open to it. Because this moment contains everything you need to know for your life in this moment. It won't tell you what you need to know 10 years from now, or maybe not even tomorrow. But in this moment, your life will tell you what you need here and now. Try it. Be here now, be present. And how much of our life do we spend reacting to what could be, or what was, or what might be? I was talking to some friends who live in Germany, and I asked them if they were going to the Oktoberfest, such and such a town. "Oh no, we don't go there because they're Bavarians. They're in southern Germany. We don't associate with them." Really? Why? Well, you know, back in 1835, the Kaiser Wilhelm did something, and so I'm going to get back at him by not going to the Oktoberfest. That'll show him, won't it? How much of our life do we live that way? So I'm not saying we don't have problems. We do. But what's the problem right now? And what needs to be done? And if the answer is there's no problem right now, then maybe nothing needs to be done. And when nothing needs to be done, we can enjoy the moment. We can enjoy the freedom of not having a problem. Of course, for some people, that's a problem, not having a problem. You see, because the mind is so habituated to, I got to fix something. Something's got to be broken. If I don't have something problem to fix, who am I? You know, what's the mind for? So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. Second thing I want to mention is to allow yourself to feel, to experience whatever you are feeling or experiencing. Just let it be. And again, if there's something that needs attention in this moment, we attend to it. What's the problem here and now? In this moment, if there's no problem here and now, what's my experience in this moment? Can I allow it? You know, remembering, most of us have heard the poem of Rumi's Guest House. You know, this being human is like a guest house. Every day a new arrival. You know, a sad thought, a mean thought, whatever. Welcome them all. Come on in. Have some tea. Would you like some soup? Stay as long as you like. When you're ready to leave, you're welcome to leave. So that's a great metaphor for simply sitting and allowing whatever arises to arise. And can I welcome it? If I can't welcome it, can I welcome whatever it is that's in the way of me welcoming it? In other words, maybe it's something I'm afraid of. Can I allow the fear? Maybe it's something I'm ashamed of. Can I allow myself to feel that shame? So whatever is here, whatever is going on, allow it. It's okay. It's really okay. Now, certain actions are not okay. But I'm not talking about acting. I'm simply talking about internally allowing within ourselves. It's very helpful to experience our emotions in the body, because typically in the mind, there's a story. Emotions have two components. They have a mental component, some kind of a story. Look what they did, look what he did, look what might happen, should have, could have, would have, all that. And then that drives an emotion. So if we can feel that emotion in the body, feel the sensations in the body directly, it will take us out of the rumination of the mind. Because the mind can spin forever. But once we get our awareness into the body, then it begins to process. Then it begins to move in a productive way. Third thing I want to mention is to be authentic. To be authentic. In Shakespeare's play, Hamlet, one of the characters, Polonius, is talking to his son who's about to embark upon a journey into a far land. And these are the words he says to his son. This above all, to thy own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst then be false to any man. To thy own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou cannot then be false to any man. Abraham Maslow, the great psychologist back in the 60s and 70s, discovered that we have two forms of conscience. Typically when we think of our conscience, we think of what our mother told us not to do, or what we were told we should do. So the conscience is conditioned. So a lot of times in our work is becoming aware of that conditioned conscience and letting it go. Or at least examining the conscience to see if it applies today. Stop, look, and listen before you cross the street. That's probably a good one to hold on to. But there are others like, always wear clean underwear, because if you get in a wreck, you don't want anybody to see. That one maybe you could let go of, For those of us that remember getting that story. I could never figure out, that was just kind of picture ambulance driver looking at a broken, bloody body going, oh my goodness, his underwear is dirty. Anyway, whatever it takes. So conscience is something that we want to look at and consciously choose whether or not we want to hold on to that particular belief. But Maslow discovered we also have an essential conscience. And that is a conscience that's not conditioned, but it's intrinsic, it's innate within us, that requires us to be true to ourselves. And it's that conscience that demands that we be true to ourselves. And oftentimes it clashes, I should say, with our conditioned conscience. Because being true to ourselves may not be true to what Mom and Dad told us. Or being true to ourselves may not be what we thought we personally wanted. Just to give a story from my own life, when I was 30 years old, I had just gotten my master's degree and had taken a new position in information technology. I was a project manager for a very large project at a manufacturing company in Michigan. And I was teaching at a local college in the evening. I was busy and enjoying life a great deal. But some things happened in my life that surprised me, that led me to be where I am now today. And that experience of what happened in my life then was a result of my intrinsic or my essential conscience, because I discovered that I was not living the life in which I was being true to my deeper self. Even though on the outside I had all of the accoutrements of success, and I was happy doing what I thought I came here to do. And I found out I was way off base. So sometimes that can be a crisis when we discover there's something inside of us saying this is not why you came here. But that's the part of the self we know we can be true to. So it's important to discern that real conscience from the conditioned conscience. And then we got a choice. We can choose whether or not we want to listen to that conditioned conscience or the real conscience within us. Authenticity. I want to close with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. By the way, I would encourage everyone to read his essay on self-reliance. I've got a whole notebook full of quotes from that essay. And here's one of them. He says, "Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Absolve you to yourself, and you shall have the suffrage of the world." So I will read that in contemporary language. Be true to yourself, and you will have the following of the world. You're saying. Forrest Gump, the great teacher. He wasn't terribly bright. He didn't want to be a leader, but he was authentic. And that authenticity was very powerful. And people followed him because he knew who he was. He didn't know why they were following him. He didn't have a clue. But he didn't care. He was just running because he felt like running. Or he was doing whatever he felt like doing because he was doing it, you see. There's a great power in authenticity. So just to summarize very quickly, be present, allow, and be authentic. Thank you. May all beings be free.